How I told my husband I wanted to leave the Mormon church. My husband and I met at BYU campus. He served a 2-year mission in Sweden, and I served my 1.5-year mission in Denver, Colorado. When we met, I had been home from my mission maybe 6 months, and I was so very Mormon. And of course, as a good Molly Mormon girl, I made sure that my potential spouse checked every Mormon box, the number one box being serving a mission. If you don't serve a mission as a Mormon boy, it's very hard to date. Mormon girls are told basically from like infancy that you have to marry a returned missionary or you don't even give him a chance. This is one of the main reasons why boys choose to serve missions, is because they basically will have no one in their dating pool within the faith unless they serve a 2-year mission. As we got to know each other and as we first started going on dates, I noticed some inconsistencies about his beliefs and the church's beliefs. My favorite example being that when I said that I don't think gay people should be able to get married, because yes, that is a viewpoint I used to hold as an active Mormon, which I am very much ashamed of now, he confronted me about it, and he said that I was wrong, and that it was wrong of me to use my faith to justify keeping other people from having rights. And at the time, I was very taken aback that he confronted me about this, and I honestly almost felt like I should break up with him, because in my mind, no good Mormon is pro-gay marriage. Still the case today, in my opinion. Fast forward, we kind of work through some of these things. I realize he's a more nuanced Mormon, but I also obviously start very much falling in love with him. And he proposes, I say yes, and we get married in the Payson Temple. After we got married, it was my first year of teaching. That first year of teaching and learning church history and just kind of becoming more open to the world outside of Mormonism, I stopped believing in the church. I was the first to stop believing in the church, even though my husband was much more nuanced about church talk. I was really nervous to tell him because, honestly, he served a 2-year mission. I had already had friends who had faced divorce after kind of going through a faith crisis, or their spouse going through a faith crisis. I just kept having this recurring thought, like, the church isn't true, the church isn't true, Joseph Smith wasn't a prophet, the Book of Mormon is false. Like, I was almost, like, thinking about it so much, it was taking up so much space in my head, it was hard to not talk about. I also knew once I said something, I was not going to be able to take it back. There was not going to be any unwinding this after I spilled the beans. And so one Sunday, I just said, I'm really struggling with my testimony. And he looked at me and he was so surprised, because of the two of us, I was the one that always wanted to read the scriptures. I always wanted to go to the temple. I wanted to pay tithing on the gross earnings of the marriage and not the net. He very lovingly asked me to explain, well, what's going on. I share the things I'm facing, the things I'm struggling with in particular. And basically for maybe a month or two, we kind of had just a bit of like a mixed faith marriage. For the first few weeks, I was very much feeling like the church wasn't right for me. And for the first few weeks, he was feeling like he wanted to stay in the church. And we had this weird phase of just like, he's going to keep going and I'm gonna leave. And that was really scary. And I think for anyone that's ever gone through that in a relationship, especially a marriage, it's a very scary time, because it feels like basically Mormonism is so all-encompassing. It really does feel like it's almost impossible to keep a mixed faith Mormon relationship. And after, I would say, about a month, he basically came around and we started being on the same page about things. He was attending at the time a BYU class about early church history, and as I'm researching stuff, and as he's learning history, and as he's going to that class, and almost as we're finally being really open about stuff we'd struggled with for our entire lives, like I shared with him my story about getting my endowment and how much I hated it and how bad it felt, and he reciprocated and basically shared the same thing, and it was almost like this brain explosion moment where we both realized how much we'd been keeping from each other, and how little we'd been willing almost to be honest about our concerns with the church, because we were both afraid of how it would impact our relationship. And we're now entering our 9th year of marriage. We have 2 kids, the oldest is 5, and both of us are atheists. And now we both have all these beautiful experiences that we got to have together.